of shadows in the darkest maze. Footsteps echo in the empty hall. Mysteries waiting on our call. Bigfoot stomping through the pines. Aliens sending secret signs. EVPs in the dead of night. Ghosts dancing in the pale moonlight. Paranormal for what we bring it to you. Truth behind the veil, gotta pursue you.
Talking about the strange.
All right. Welcome, everybody that's listening, watching.
Welcome. We got a great show tonight.
Yes, we do.
We're going to blow your mind.
Mind blown.
If we're lucky. Tonight, we are going to take some phone calls. 865-800-3696. It's on your screen if you're watching us. 865-800-3696.
Yes, we want you to call in and give us your opinions.
And you know, I was talking with someone at work today, and you know how this goes to where, what if you waking up from that bad dream was you dying in another universe?
Yeah.
And then they started telling me about some dreams that they woke up from, just like that. So think about it. It might be true.
It may be.
So I think we're going to have a great show. Remember this coming Saturday, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, right?
Yes.
The 3rd.
May the 3rd.
Yeah.
Going to be at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival in Townsend, Tennessee.
Come see us. We're going to be right there, right in the front when you first drive in.
Yeah, you might see our tent.
Yeah, unless you're blind.
You'd about have to be blind to see that thing.
And then we've got a great show the following Saturday, do we not? We got a guest coming on?
We do. So, Robert Khalil.
Yeah.
He's going to be talking to us about some stuff.
Bunch of stuff. It's going to be great. You can't miss it. It's going to be good.
All right. So tonight we're going to be talking about cheating death at the quantum level.
Yeah. Can you live forever?
Yeah, I think it's possible.
I think we're going to lay down some groundwork to where, you know, you might be able to be like, hey, this may be possible.
Maybe.
So here we go. Are you ready for it? You're alive.
Am I?
Yeah. You know, this fact seems pretty mundane. Almost too obvious to state. But consider for just a moment how many times you've narrowly escaped death. The car that swerved just in time. The illness that receded. The stumble on the stairs that somehow didn't break your neck. Now, we call these moments luck, fate, or divine intervention, depending on our beliefs. But what if there's another explanation? One that lies not in the hands of gods or randomness, but in the quantum fabric of reality itself. Now imagine this. You're on a plane plummeting towards the ocean. The engines fail. The cabin screams. In the final seconds, you brace for oblivion. Oblivion. But when the fuselage hits the water, there's no pain, no darkness. Instead, you wake in your bed, heart racing as if it were all a nightmare. Later, you learn the flight never crashed. The news reports a last-minute mechanical fix, a delay, maybe a different pilot. Now, the world insists it happens this way, but you remember the fall.
Well, what if you wake up and you're laying down on an island off of Australia?
Then we'd be Lost.
That we'd be lost.
We wouldn't know where we
I
were.
wonder if Jack and them would be there.
Maybe.
Hurley. Jack, Hurley, Sawyer.
They might be.
Dead, not dead. Dead, not dead.
Now, this is the mystery of quantum immortality. The idea that your consciousness might be a traveler in an infinite maze of realities, always turning down corridors where you survive, even as other versions of you perish in branching paths you'll never see.
Mm.
Now, it's not a promise of eternal youth or a spiritual afterlife. It is a cold, grand hypothesis born from one of physics' most controversial theories, which is the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics.
MWI.
Yes. And it forces us to confront a question that straddles science and nightmare.
What's up, Will?
What's up, Will? What if death is an illusion and you are always, inevitably, hauntingly alive? Yeah. What if, right?
Yeah, what if? So,
Remember, this is a call-in show.
yeah, you can call in.
Yeah, we have a number there up on the screen, 865-800-3696 if you want to call in.
Or if you want to chime in the chat room, but we'd rather you call in. We want to test out our new call-in stuff we ain't used in a while.
We have not.
So, this story begins in 1957. A 26-year-old Princeton graduate named Hugh Everett III. He proposed a radical answer to one of quantum theory's oldest paradoxes. At the time, physicists were grappling with the bizarre behavior of particles, which seemed to exist in multiple states at once until they were observed.
Yep. So then you get the double split
Yeah.
experiments and all that stuff. Yeah.
So the prevailing Copenhagen interpretation, championed by figures like Niels Bohr, he argued that reality collapses into a single outcome when measured.
Mm-hmm.
But Everett dared to suggest a different view. Every possible outcome actually happens, each in its own parallel universe.
Yeah, why not?
His thesis was dismissed, even mocked by the scientific establishment. But in the decades that followed, the idea evolved into the MWI, which is the many worlds interpretation. It's a framework where reality endlessly splits into an alternate timeline, each hosting a different version of events.
Yeah, so instead of taking the left, you took a right.
Yeah.
Every decision you make every day, you actually do both.
Yeah, the opposite.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Or you could say every time you make a decision to do something.
Mm-hmm. So from this theory emerges a lot of quantum immortality. If every quantum event spawns new universes, proponents argue that your subjective experience of reality must follow paths where your consciousness persists. So in branches where you die, shot by a quantum triggered gun, say you cease to exist for that version of you. But in the branches where the gun jams or the bullet misses, your awareness continues. You would never experience death. Only survival, no matter how unlikely that would be.
Right. Pretty crazy, right?
Yeah. This is not a comforting vision of eternity. David Lewis, a philosopher, once warned that such immortality could trap you in a life worse than death. A charred body after a nuclear blast. Yeah.
That'd suck.
It would. A mind decaying from incurable disease. A consciousness adrift in a cold, dying universe. Even Max Tegmark, the MIT physicist who formalized the idea in the 90s, cautions that real-world deaths, slow, classical, and messy, likely prevent such horrors. But the thought experiment lingers, forcing us to reckon with profound questions. What defines you? If your consciousness flees death by hopping realities, is the survivor still you?
Maybe.
Maybe. Or a copy wearing your memories. And if reality is infinite, does anything you truly do matter?
You know, that's the thing, though, is that if this picture that they're painting of you are connected to all of you, every single one of you, and your consciousness is tied to the ones that are alive, that every time you die, your consciousness jumps into a live you.
Another timeline.
Yeah. And so therefore you're always alive.
So what happens with the other conscious that's already, is it the same conscious?
That's the question you just asked. Yes. Is that you, or is that just somebody with your memories?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, when you look at it that way, it's like, remember that Jet Li movie, The One? It was an old movie in the early 2000s. So he was a cop in this one reality and a time traveler. Uh-oh. I just lost connection somehow. And let's see. Let me answer my own phone call here. I don't know how it dropped, but it did. What's cool about the movie, though, is that he is a cop, kind of a time type cop, right? But in one reality, he actually had to defend himself against himself, and he killed himself. Well, he realized he got stronger, faster, and even smarter so he started jumping to other timelines and killing the other versions of himself. And he felt himself every time he did that, he got faster, stronger, smarter. And what he figured would happen is if he killed everyone and he was the only one left, he would live forever.
Yeah. Infinite, though. He couldn't never kill all of himself. Right?
Yeah, maybe not be able to kill the last of him. Yeah.
Michelle says maybe why when you start a new hobby and are really good at it, it may not be beginner's luck, but memories from another life.
Yeah. And that might be also why you decided to take that up when you didn't do it before. So that's possible. Yeah. Why not?
That's interesting too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the cool thing about stuff like this is that there's a myriad of things that it could be, you know? So now this is a journey through the science, philosophy, and cultural echoes of quantum immortality. Now we'll start in the realm of quantum theory, where particles defy logic and cats linger in gruesome limbo. We'll explore thought experiments that border on horror, devices designed to test immortality through suicide, paradoxes of identity that unravel the self, and confront the ethical quagmires of a world where risk and consequences dissolve into fractal possibilities. We'll meet the scientists who defend the many worlds interpretation as elegant and inevitable, and critics who dismiss it as untestable metaphysics. Now we'll see how these ideas haunt our stories, from cult films like Coherence to conspiracy theories about shifted timelines. We might know some of those, huh, Jason?
Yeah.
Some of those timeline stories.
Remember, we do have a call-in number if you want to call in.
Yeah, 865-800-3696. But now this is not a manifesto for immortality. It is an invitation to wonder, to fear, and to question whether quantum immortality is a profound truth or a philosophical mirage. It holds up a mirror to our deepest anxieties about existence. It asks us to consider what it means to live in a universe or a multiverse where every choice, every chance, every collision of particles might spin off new worlds, where death, for all its finality in this reality, could be nothing more than a door closing in a hallway of infinite doors.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yes.
To some extent. I mean, we don't know what's beyond death. I mean, some people have seen it. They claim, I know there's something there, but we don't know what.
Yes.
We can just go by people's interpretation of the afterlife.
Yep.
Maybe there is no afterlife. Maybe you just continue on.
Jump to the next. Yeah. And just as we started, you are alive.
You are alive.
Let's find out why.
Why am I alive?
Why? So, the story of quantum immortality begins not with grand promises of eternal life, but with a cat. Meow. A very unlucky cat. In 1935, Austrian physicist Erwin Schrödinger devised a thought experiment to expose the absurdity of the quantum theory. So he imagined a cat sealed in a box with a diabolical contraption, a vial of poison, a hammer, and a single radioactive atom. If the atom decayed, a quantum event governed by probability, the hammer would smash the vial, killing the cat. If not, the cat lived. So according to the prevailing Copenhagen interpretation, until someone opened the box, the atom existed in a superposition, so it was both decayed and undecayed. So by extension, the cat was both dead and alive. Only upon observation did reality collapse into one outcome. Schrödinger's cat.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So if you don't actually observe it, it's both ways.
Yes. It's dead and alive.
Yeah. And if you do observe it, it stops. It's just one way.
Yep.
That's true.
Yeah. It
Very
is.
true.
Yeah. Now, Schrödinger meant this, as satire. To him, the idea of a cat existing in such a grotesque limbo was nonsense. But his paradox became a cornerstone of quantum mechanics, exposing a truth far stranger than fiction. At the subatomic level, particles do occupy multiple states simultaneously. Electrons spin in all directions at one time. Photons act as both waves and particles. Reality, it seems, was a kaleidoscope of possibilities until humans looked at it, forcing it to choose. Now, is that not interesting, though?
Yeah.
That not only when we look at it does it collapse into one or the other, but it knows when it's being looked at. Is that not amazing too, though?
Yeah.
how does a particle or anything like that know it's being observed?
Even matter. I mean,
Yeah.
anything with mass. If I didn't look at that door, it could be open and closed.
Yep.
But when I look at it, it's closed.
Yes.
I see. Yeah.
So this is a good way of thinking about it. You have a kid that plays video games.
Oh yeah.
Does he play first person shooter type games
Yeah.
and stuff? Okay. So in those worlds, the only thing that renders is what you could see.
Mm-hmm.
But anything you can't see is not rendered in the video game, so you can't see it yet, right? But if you keep walking, it slowly comes in and renders and you can see it.
Yeah.
Well, there's people who believe that this earth is the same way. That if it's not being looked at,
It
doesn't exist.
It's true. It's just like if a tree falls in the
woods, right?
In the woods, does it make a sound?
Right.
If you're there, yeah, it probably would. If you're not there and falls, it don't make a sound.
Yep. No one's there to hear it.
Right. This is some deep stuff.
Yes.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, if you want to.
So for decades, physicists accepted the paradox under the Copenhagen framework. But in 1957, a 26-year-old Princeton graduate named Hugh Everett III dared to ask, what if reality doesn't collapse at all? Everett proposed a radical alternative that every quantum event spawns all possible outcomes, each unfolding in its own parallel universe. When a radioactive atom in Schrodinger's box both decays and doesn't decay, it isn't a contradiction. It's a fork in reality. One universe holds the dead cat, the other a living one. So both are equally real.
Right.
So the scientific community, scoffed at Niels Bohr's architect of the Copenhagen interpretation, dismissed Everett's work as childish, but the idea refused to die. By the 1970s, physicists like Bryce DeWitt rebranded it the many worlds interpretation, arguing that quantum branching wasn't just possible, it was inevitable. So every decision, every particle interaction, every cosmic event splinters reality into countless branches.
Mm-hmm.
In one universe, you take a left turn and die in a car crash. In another, you turn right and survive. The implications were staggering. If all possibilities exist, could your conscious self, outrun death by changing to the branches where you live?
Now, that gets deep.
Yeah, pretty deep. So, quantum suicide. A thought experiment as chilling as it's elegant. Imagine a modified version of the Schrodinger box, this time with you inside of it. A device points a gun at your head, triggered by a quantum event, say the decay of a radioactive atom. If the atom decays within a set time, the gun fires. If not, it doesn't. The odds are 50-50. Under the Copenhagen interpretation, after 1 minute, you have a 50% chance of being dead. But under the MWI, reality splits. In one branch, you die. In the other branch, you live. It's deep.
Yes.
But here's the twist. Here is the twist. Your conscious experience follows the branch where you survive.
Aha. So then.
To you, the gun simply fails to fire. You repeat the experiment again and again, each time surviving against astronomical odds. To an outside observer, most branches show your corpse. But in the branches where you exist, the outcome feels like a miracle. It's a miracle that thing didn't go off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of millions of times I've tried this.
Yeah. This is the crux of quantum immortality. Survival isn't luck. It's an artifact of your subjective perspective.
Yes. So you only ever see the times you live.
Yep. Go ahead.
But why does this happen? Now, the answer lies in a principle called anthropic bias. Observers can only exist in branches compatible with their existence. Makes sense, right? If the gun fires, there's no you left to experience that outcome. So your consciousness becomes anchored to the increasingly rare branches where you survive, creating the illusion of invincibility. Yet, oh, I thought you were going to say something.
No, I'm just shaking my head.
Yet this immortality is fragile. For the thought experiment to hold, death must be tied to a quantum event, a true random process like radioactive decay. Most real-world deaths, car crashes, heart attacks, aging, are classical processes governed by Newtonian physics or biology. They don't split reality cleanly. Even if you rigged a quantum suicide device, practical barriers abound. Death is rarely instantaneous. Consciousness fades gradually, allowing awareness to leak into branches where survival is possible. So, if it's not an instantaneous thing, it's not an instantaneous thing that you think you live.
Yeah.
So this is where math collides with the macabre. MIT physicist Max Tegmark, who formalized quantum immortality in the 90s, outlined strict criteria for testing it. Now, quantum randomness, death must hinge on a true quantum event, like particle decay, not actual classical chance like flipping a coin. So there's no time, in an instantaneous death, there's no time for consciousness to shift branches. Near certain lethality, survival must be vanishingly rare in most branches. No experiment has ever met these criteria. Ethical concerns aside, the universe seems rigged to prevent proof. Aging, for example, isn't a quantum process. It's a slow unraveling of biology, leaving no escape hatch for consciousness. Now, critics pounce on this. Nobel laureate Steven Weinberg called multi-worlds interpretation a beautiful idea ruined by its own excess. Others argue that if we can't test it, it is not science. It's metaphysics. Even Tegmark concedes that quantum immortality is less a prediction than a philosophical provocation. But the idea endures because it forces us to confront the strangeness of quantum reality. If the multi-worlds interpretation is true, then every moment of your life is a thread in an infinite tapestry of possibilities. You are not a single self, but a swarm of selves. Some thriving, some dying, but all are equally real. The gun in the quantum suicide experiment isn't just a tool of destruction, it's a mirror reflecting the enigma of existence itself. And in that reflection, a darker question looms. If consciousness can hopscotch across realities, What horrors might await in the branches where survival comes at a cost too terrible to imagine?
Like charred body
Yeah,
still living in it.
that would be terrible, wouldn't it?
It would. So the allure of immortality fades when we confront its philosophical shadows. Quantum immortality, it don't promise a triumphant eternity. Instead, it thrusts us into a labyrinth of existential paradoxes, where the self fractures, ethics unravel, and survival becomes a cosmic horror. So, who are you? In a multiverse, if every quantum decision spawns a new universe, you are no longer a singular entity, but a branching tree of selves.
Constantly branching.
Yeah, this fractures the very notion of identity. Consider philosopher Derek Parfit's teletransportation paradox. Now, if a machine scans your body, destroys it, rebuilds it, a perfect copy on Mars, is the copy still you?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people now say no.
I think I would say no.
Did the original you die? Huh?
I think so. If it destroys it.
So the original you died, yet under quantum immortality, a version of you survives in another branch on Mars. So, indistinguishable in memory and biology, are you there? Or a copy wearing your lifelike mask?
You know, that brings back to Star Trek. You know, the teleporter.
Yeah.
That's kind of how they talk about the teleporter being, is that it's something that scans and all the way down to the molecular level, and then it pretty much destroys that body and then rebuilds it again. That's why if they have corrupted data files, they can't rebuild you.
Right. And then you're just dead.
Then you're dead.
You're deader than a doornail. Dead as a doornail.
That's right. Remember, the call-in number's at the bottom if you want to.
Come
talk.
on, call in. Somebody call in and talk to us. Just tell us, ask us how we're doing.
Yeah, there you go. Say that you're going to be there next Saturday.
Yeah.
The problem deepens with psychological continuity. Now, if your consciousness splits into countless branches, each with diverging experiences, which thread holds the true you? So, philosopher David Lewis argued that all branches are equally real, but your subjective experiences clings to only one path. You are not a stable self, but a perspective. So you're a flickering spotlight in an infinite theater of possibilities. Yeah. So does death lose its stakes? If consciousness flees death by hopping realities, does life value diminish? Imagine a reckless gambler who believes quantum immortality ensures survival. They leap from rooftops, play Russian roulette, and shrug off danger. But this ignores a critical nuance. Real-world deaths are rarely clean quantum splits. So aging, disease, trauma are classical processes governed by biology, not by particle decay. So as MIT physicist Max Tegmark notes, You do not split into a universe where you are young and one where you are old. You just get old. Consciousness fades gradually, leaving no escape hatch. So even in theory, quantum immortality offers no solace. Ethicists warn that infinite survival could trap you in a hellscape of suffering. Suppose you survive a nuclear blast, right?
Mhm.
Your body's charred, mind shattered. Multi-world interpretation suggests a branch exists where you endured this agony infinitely. Is this immortality or damnation? That's what happens when you get into.
Yeah. I think it's damnation.
It would be. It would feel that way anyway, right? Now, the illusion of invincibility, the math of multi-worlds interpretation is cold comfort. Now, while all outcomes exist, not all are equally probable. Philosopher David Papineau agrees that low probability survival branches grow exponentially rarer. So you might dodge death once, but over time, the odds start stacking against you. So imagine rolling a die billions of times. Even if you survive each roll, the branches where you persist become a small fraction of reality's tapestry. Hey, Barbara.
Hello, Barbara.
So that one's hard for me to grasp. Just for the fact that if every time you make a decision, so the decision to pull the trigger or not to pull the trigger or to do whatever creates a new timeline, but yet it says that the timelines, the more you do this, the branches where you persist become a small fraction of reality's tapestry.
Well, I think to become quantumly immortal, you have to make a choice. It can't just happen.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be a choice you make. Do you not think that? You're going to either go jump or not jump.
Right.
So I don't know. It's kind of deep
Very deep.
for my little pea brain.
Charles Sebens, a philosopher of physics, adds another layer. So if death is gradual, cancer, organ failure, your consciousness dissipates across branches. So it dissipates not into one singular, but across multiple branches.
So let me ask you this. So if you die of, say, organ failure, do you die in the other paths, the branches?
Nope. And what he was just saying is that if you die of something like that, then instead of your full consciousness, say, jumping to one place,
It spreads out.
it spreads out to all the remaining. Yeah. So, which avoids the immortal path.
That's because you don't make a choice.
Yeah. Because it's something, that happened. Only instantaneous quantum linked deaths could anchor you to survival. So a rarity, which is a rarity in our world of today. So the horror of forever. When survival becomes a curse, quantum immortality's darkest implication is not death's evasion, but life's inevitability. So picture a future where Earth lies in ruins, the sun burns out, and you float alone in the void.
The void.
Yes, the void.
What's its name?
I forgot.
Forgot.
Yeah.
David's in a void with some AI stuff.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if you could get it to talk to you. Now, the multi-worlds interpretation suggests that some branches exist where you survive, even as atoms decay and time loses meaning. You become a ghost in the machine of reality, trapped in a universe where existence is a prison.
Cool.
Now, this is the paradox of the heart of the theory. It promises immortality, but strips it of any meaning. So if every choice spawns infinite paths, nothing you do matters. Heroism and villainy, love and betrayal, all are diluted into statistical noise. You are both everything and nothing.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Interesting, right?
Yeah. So there's a lot of skepticism too, right?
Yep.
So quantum immortality is a theory that dances on the edge of science and speculation, tantalizing in its implications, but maddeningly elusive in its practice. For all its conceptual elegance, the idea collides with the harsh truth. Can't test it.
Right.
Not ethically and not practically, and perhaps not even theoretically. To understand why, we must dissect between the pristine logic of the many world interpretation and the messy reality of human mortality. So in the 90s, MIT physicist Max Tegmark outlined the strict conditions required to test quantum immortality. A checklist that reads like a recipe from science fiction.
Uh-oh.
Death must hinge on a genuine quantum event such as radioactive decay or photon polarizations. Classical randomness, coin flips, roulette wheels, or human choices won't work. So these are deterministic at their core, governed by the Newtonian physics, not quantum probability. Instantaneous death, the lethal outcome must occur faster than conscious can shift between branches. So a bullet to the brain might qualify for that. A slow acting poison wouldn't. Near certain lethality, survival must be astronomically unlikely in most branches. If the odds of living are too high, the experiment loses its edge. So these criteria are nearly impossible to satisfy. Consider a hypothetical quantum suicide, a gun triggered by the decay of a uranium atom. Even if built, the experiment fails at step one. Real-world firearms rely on classical mechanics, springs, triggers, and chemical explosions, not quantum phenomena. So the gun's firing would depend on macro-scale engineering, not particle physics. So while real death defies quantum splits, most deaths are stubbornly classical. Car crashes obey Newton's laws of motion. Heart attacks stem from biological decay. Aging is a slow erosion of cells. Barbara.
Is it possible to branch off consciousness and in all the realities have some outcome and thoughts, yet live different lives? Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think you would be the same person, but your life would be different.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Because we talked about that just a little bit ago where, left turn, right turn, whatever, all these different worlds or realities that you're in. And each one of those, these people are going to live separate lives.
Mhm.
So going down different paths. But your realities have the same outcome. Yeah.
You know, maybe incarnation is instantaneous. What do you think?
I do think so.
Maybe that's part of it. I never thought about that till just now. So each reality makes choices that direct their paths. Yeah, has to be a choice. So heart attacks and biological decay, it's a slow erosion of cells. So none of those processes split reality cleanly into live and die branches. Instead, death unfolds gradually, allowing consciousness to bleed into branches where survival is possible. Even if you've engineered a quantum link death, a device that kills you only if a photon takes path A, in a double slit experiment. So practical barriers still remain. Human consciousness isn't a light switch. It fades over milliseconds. During the lag, your awareness could scatter across all these branches and diluting the immortal effect. So Tegmark himself admitted that you don't get to choose which branch you're in. You're just stuck with the one you get.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So the Achilles heel in the multi-world interpretation is untestability. The deepest criticism of quantum immortality isn't technical, it's philosophical. Now, science demands falsifiability, right? A theory must make predictions we can test. But the multi-world interpretation by its nature resists verification. If every outcome occurs in some branch, how do we prove it? Barbara says, so each reality makes choices that direct their path. Yes. But if you die in that path, then you are moved to another path. But if it's slow death, then you're spread out beyond multiple realities.
Yeah.
Let's see. So experiments yield only local results. The outcomes we observe in this branch, parallel universes by definition, lie beyond our reach. So critics like Nobel laureate Steven Weinberg dismisses multi-world interpretation as a beautiful idea ruined by its own excesses. Sean Carl, a proponent of multi-world, concedes the point. It's not that the many worlds interpretation is wrong, it's that it might be right in a way that's impossible to confirm. Without empirical evidence, quantum immortality lingers in the realm of metaphysics, a thought experiment with no exit. Now, competing interpretations escaping the multiverse. Skeptics argue that alternative interpretations of quantum mechanics sidestep the need for infinite branches. So, Copenhagen interpretation of reality collapses into a single outcome upon measurement. So, Schrodinger's cat is either dead or alive, not both. Death remains final. So
that's only if you look at it, if you open
Yes.
the box.
That's right. Otherwise, it is
Both.
Right. So proponents, spontaneous objective collapses of wave functions, avoiding parallel universes altogether. So they're saying that when you look at it and it collapses, then that's all the other possibilities collapsing. So then there could only be one.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense, because if they were infinite until you look at it, then it collapses to one. Where did the infinite go?
Dissipated.
Right. That's weird, right?
Yeah.
So they treat quantum probabilities as subjective beliefs, not physical realities. So the frameworks reject the ontological excesses of multi-worlds interpretation, offering simpler, if less dazzling, explanations. Yet they too have flaws. The Copenhagen interpretation struggles to define what constitutes a measurement. GRW requires ad hoc collapses mechanisms. Cubism leans into subjectivity. So the debate remains unresolved. A reminder that quantum theory is a map, not the actual territory. So while we will never build a quantum suicide machine, even if the technical hurdles fell away, ethical barriers loom. There's no institutional review board would approve an experiment predicated on suicide. Yeah, I don't think that they would.
It's not ethical.
Not ethical. And what sane volunteer would risk death or worse, a half death on a physics hunch? There's crazy people out there. Tegmark's thought experiment crumbles under the weight of its own dystopian logic. So we're going to talk about some pop cultures.
Pop cultures.
Yeah, pop culture icon stuff, some movies.
Nobody's called in yet. Come on now. Give us one caller.
They're all scared.
How many?
Going once, going twice. I believe people have unknowingly been
in other tests. Huh.
I think you probably are right.
We might be in a big test right now.
Yeah.
Somebody's looking at us through a microscope.
Yeah. Are they going to collapse? Are they going to stay in this form?
Something
on the way.
So, what are we talking about? Quantum immortality.
Right.
It's not confined to textbooks or lectures. It seeps into our stories, our myths, our collective nightmares. We have blockbuster films to conspiracy forums. The idea of branching realities and cursed survival haunts the modern imagination, and it reflects our deepest anxieties about identity, fate, and the fragility of existence. So, parallel worlds in pop culture, the allure of infinite realities has become a staple of science fiction. In Coherence, 2013, now we're talking about movies. Yep. A group of friends at a dinner party unwittingly slipped between timelines during a comet's pass, confronting doppelgangers of themselves. A visceral metaphor for the terror of fractured identity, Christopher Nolan's The Prestige movie in 2006, it took a darker turn. He was a magician, clones himself nightly to perfect an illusion, only to drown his duplicate in a parody of quantum branching. You never understood why we did this, one clone whispers. The audience knows the truth. The world is simple. It's miserable, solid all the way through. But if you could fool them, even for a second, then you can make them wonder. So these stories tap into the existential vertigo of quantum immortality. Are we the original self? Or are we just a copy among millions? So what happens to the versions of us left behind? The answer these films suggest is often horrible. The Mandela effect. When the past splits. So in 2010, a peculiar conspiracy theory went viral. Thousands claimed to remember Nelson Mandela dying in in a South African prison in the 1980s. And despite his real death in 2013, it was dubbed the Mandela effect. So this birthed a cottage industry of alternate timeline speculation. Had reality really split? Did we shift into another parallel universe?
Sometimes I think we have.
I can remember.
Shell says fishbowl.
Looking in a fishbowl.
Yeah.
I can remember that Mandela thing. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Because I thought he was dead.
Yep.
But he was only in prison. Supposedly.
Yep.
A lot of scientists dismiss it as a collective false memory. The Mandela effect thrives online, forums buzz with evidence. Monopoly Man's monocle.
Yes.
He never had one.
Nope. I know.
Well, why did Ace Ventura?
Yes, I know. Put the monocle
in.
Yes.
When he had the guy going, do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Yeah.
Why? If he never had a monocle, why would he do that?
Right.
It's weird.
This next one too is like, I remember.
The Berenstain Bears. Misremembered as the Berenstain Bears. Even geographical errors like New Zealand's location. These glitches resonate because they mirror Quantum Immortality's premise. Unseen branches where history diverges. So the Mandela effect is less a theory than a modern myth. Excuse me. A secular haunting for a society obsessed with instability of truth.
Right. Are these glitches that cause a matrix type effect? They can be, yes. Yep. I was talking to somebody at work about that today.
Have you ever witnessed a glitch in the Matrix?
No.
You know somebody that has, though. I mean, every time I've heard it myself. Oh, well, it's a glitch in the Matrix, but I can't remember what it was.
Do you think it's something that's naturally just
I think
coded out?
Yeah, I do.
Curious George's tail. Yep. He didn't have a tail. Creamy wheat. Yep.
Creamy wheat from cream of wheat. C3PO having a different. Did he? Or did he? Did he not? He either did or didn't. Those are some pretty good examples, Barbara.
Yep, they are. Uh-oh. We got a caller.
We have a caller.
They're screening them right now, so. Uh-oh.
Originally, he didn't have a colored leg.
Caller hung up.
Come on, caller. Why'd you hang up for? Too bad we ain't got
calling
caller.
Q. Hold on. Processing audio.
Somebody leave a message.
Let's get them. Hello.
Hey.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey. Hi. I was just wondering on the Mandela effect, that if most people have just a few of them, or do they usually wind up having almost all of them?
I don't know. I think it varies. I think some really believe some of them more than they do others.
Yeah. I think it does vary. I mean, you could have one because the maybe you were in that timeline. Maybe you were in that parallel universe and that was the only one you were in. So like Curious George's Tale could be in a different parallel universe.
Right.
But
Because I
Gotcha.
there's a couple of those that we mentioned that I'm like, I remember that.
the Bernstein Bears,
The monocle.
the monocle.
Almost all of them I did.
Did you?
I never heard of the cream of wheat or.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. Well, maybe you do.
Maybe you've been in them all.
Maybe I have.
Maybe you've incarnated many times.
Well, there's one thing that's true right now. You know what that is?
What?
You're alive.
You are alive.
That's true.
And you could be immortal.
I could see her being immortal.
Yeah, really.
I could. She seems like the immortal type. I don't know, but that's a good question though. Smokey and the Bandit. Watch paint dry or watch cars rust.
No. I never heard that one either.
I don't think I've heard that one. Watch paint dry or watch cars rust. I've watched Smokey and the Bandit a bunch of times.
Yeah.
People are going to have to like call in with all these. You have anything else?
I'm going to barbecue your ass.
Well, thank you for calling.
Guys.
Yep.
Thank you for calling.
You're welcome.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
See, now that's what we like. We like calls so we can talk to you people.
And the first caller who accidentally hung up could call us back. I know who you are. I saw your number.
Uh-oh. You saw the number.
I saw the number. The remember the numbers on the screen, 865-800-3696. At the bottom of the screen there. So, technological immortality. Digital ghosts, frozen corpses. Quantum Immortality's culture shadows extends to transhumanism. So startups like Netcom promise to upload minds to silicone. Cryonics firms freeze bodies in hopes of future revivals. Now, these ventures flirt with a similar promise, cheating death by shifting consciousness into new mediums. But they actually raise parallel dilemmas.
I can see that.
So, say if your mind is digitized, is the uploaded you truly you? Or just a copy that inherits your memories? Now, this echoes of the quantum identity crisis. Survival at the cost of fracturing the self. Even Elon Musk mused, if your clone has all your memories, is it you? Probably not. But you wouldn't know because you'd be dead.
I got a theory about that. If you die, then your clone would become you. It would be you.
But you would never know because you'd be dead.
But you would know that you were a clone, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just...
Unless you was never told you as a clone.
Yeah. Unless they never opened your box.
Yes.
Then you could be both.
At the same time.
So I think if we got to the point where we could transfer our consciousness to a flash drive, just like a computer. When you go to your computer and you transfer something over to a flash drive, then onto your computer, do you delete your flash drive? Do you make space when it's already
Sometimes.
on your computer? Well, then that's the one you use. That's you. That's your file. That's the original file.
Yeah. Or a copy of the original file.
Well, a copy, it's the same file. It's the
Right.
same set of O's and ones and blah, blah, blah.
Right. See, that goes right back into it again. So
Barbara
how do you
says,
know which one's you?
well, you wouldn't know, I guess, if you're dead. What makes us unique is the physical form or our mind's emotions, and that's what makes us us. That's what Barbara says.
What makes us unique? Well, I think that is something that, as we've kind of gone along a little bit, us being unique is what we do on this specific timeline. So we are unique to this timeline. That's why we wanted to start it off with, you're alive.
Mm-hmm.
You are you. You are alive.
Here's what I'm thinking. Past lives.
Right. But then just think, so when you die, especially a tragic, quick death, right? And that consciousness travels to the next.
You're still you, and you still have those memories locked in there somewhere.
It's I woke up from this terrible dream of getting shot.
Yeah.
But you didn't get shot.
Right. Michelle says, I think it boils down to being real or NRPs in this timeline.
I think she meant NPCs.
NPCs?
Non-playable character.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
It's pretty interesting subject here.
It is. It allows you to think of a myriad of things. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, you get to think of all kinds of crazy stuff. Because it's all, if this is true, then everything is possible. In another timeline, you're rich and famous. In another timeline, you're broke and poor. And everything in between.
Right.
If you can imagine it, you've done it somewhere.
Deja vu.
Yes. Can our dreams be us seeing our other branches of reality? Absolutely. That's one of the things that I really do believe that the multi-worlds theory is talking about when it says, like the story we told at the beginning. Mm-hmm. You're in a plane, it's starting to go down over the ocean. You're making your peace. And as you hit, strangely, there's no pain. And all of a sudden you wake up. And it was all just a dream. Mm-hmm. But was it? You remember the fall. You remember hitting the water. But you wake up and it didn't happen.
Well, they also have this thing called imagination. Imagination. So if you believe in imagination, that could be part of it.
Yeah. I think that a lot of this too can be summed up with, how you can want something bad enough and be able to get it. Mm-hmm. Because our minds, what we see is when it finally gets to what it is. So when you get to the point in your mind that you want something to where you could see it in your mind that you've got it, it
You
will
should
come
get
to
it.
you.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So if quantum immortality traps you in hellish branches, digital immortality risks trapping you in virtual purgatory, a server farm hosting your consciousness long after humanity expires.
Purgatory.
Purgatory. So the horror of infinite selves. The cultural fascination with quantum immortality often circles back to dread. In The Black Mirror, USS Callister's 2017, a programmer traps digital clones of his co-workers in a virtual hell, torturing them for eternity. Now, the episode's terror lies not in the technology, but in the implications that consciousness can be copied, trapped, and tormented without escape.
Weird.
Yeah. This fear mirrors David Lewis' warning about quantum immortality. Survival might mean enduring a life of unending agony. Reddit threads and creepypasta tales amplify this anxiety. One user writes, if quantum immortality is real, then somewhere there's a version of me who failed their suicide attempt and they're stuck and they'll never get out.
Yeah, that's wild. So, what does it mean to be alive?
You are alive.
What does it mean? You know, we began with a question that sounds simple but unravels into infinite complexities. What does it mean to be alive? Quantum immortality, for all its mathematical elegance and philosophical riddles, it don't answer this. Instead, it holds up a fractured mirror. It reflects our deepest fears, hopes, and uncertainties about existence.
Right.
I'm wheezing. So if the many worlds interpretation is true, reality is a kaleidoscope of selves, each version of you living, dying, and diverging in ways too vast to comprehend. You're not a single thread, but a tapestry woven from every choice, accident, and quantum flicker. Yet this vastness does not diminish the urgency of this life, the one you're living right now. It amplifies it in a multiverse where every possibility exists. The significance of this moment, the coffee in your hand, the laugh of a friend, the ache of a loss, it's not diluted, it's magnified. For in the infinite sprawl of realities, this version of you is the only one you will ever know. Barbara says, even scarier thought, who is in control of the realities and has that much control over us?
That's
Source, the creator. He created this big old computer program we're living in.
That's possible.
So quantum immortality at its core is not a theory about cheating death. It's a theory about meaning. It forces us to confront the paradox that defines our humanity. We are transient creatures in a universe of endless possibilities. Our lives are fleeting, but they're also singular. The branches we cannot see, the ones where we die young, succeed beyond dreams, or suffer unspeakably, do not erase the weight of this path. They remind us that existence is fragile, and it's a gift, and it's balanced on the edge of a quantum knife. So as philosophers and filmmakers have warned, it's not in living forever, it's in losing what makes life precious. Mortality gives our choices, stakes, our love, urgency, and our time value. To live forever, even in theory, would be to drift in a sea of infinities, unmoored from the anchors of consequence and connection. So where does that leave us?
Leaves us
Where does it leave us?
where quantum immortality remains a thought experiment, a shadow on the wall of quantum theory. It is untestable, unprovable, and for many, unsettling, and also unsettlingly plausible. But its greatest lesson is not about physics or parallel selves, it's about humanity. Like Jason said, we are finite beings grasping at the infinite, trying to parse truths that may lie forever beyond our reach. As you leave this show and go back into the world, a world of traffic lights, deadlines, tangled human relationships, carry this one question with you. What does it mean to be alive in a universe that might contain every version of your story? The answer is not in the math or the metaphysics. It is in the mundane and the miraculous. The breath in your lungs, the ground beneath your feet. The improbable fact that you are here at all. Quantum immortality suggests that somewhere in some branch of reality you do live forever. But here and now, in this branch, you are alive. Achingly, uniquely, temporarily alive. And that, perhaps, is miracle enough. Oh. Yay.
Great speech.
So, like we just said, it all comes down to the fact that you are who you are right here.
And now.
There is a possibility of us being alive forever. We are pretty sure that the many worlds theory, anyway, says that all possibilities are happening at right now.
Yep.
This very second. You know, there was a time where Jason and I decided not to do this show.
Did we?
Yeah, there's got to be.
Yeah. But we opened the box and looked at it, and
it collapsed into this show.
Collapsed into the show.
Yeah.
Because we had like 3 different shows in one box.
We did. Yeah.
And if we would not have opened that box, what would happen? We wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
But we opened it and we took a choice. We said, "You're alive. It's alive."
Yes, we are alive. So do we pass branch to branch until we run out and only one remaining branch exists, and that is our eternity? Nope.
I think it's infinite branches.
Yep. And if you die in this branch, then you get spread out between the other branches where you're still alive.
Yep. So they say.
That's the theory.
Yeah, that's the theory.
That's the theory. For sure. Because it's not able to be put in a lab and tested.
Unless you want to get real unethical about it.
But then you really couldn't really test it because you might die here, but you'd be alive when you woke up.
When that atom decomposes and hits that hammer, that cat's going to die.
But what if But it says that it's in both states at the same time.
Right.
So it's dead and alive.
As far as we know, until we look.
All right. But then this reality picks one.
Yep.
But the other one still exists.
Yep.
In another reality.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So like I said, the turn left and get in a fatal car wreck, but then the other one you turn right and everything's fine.
Yep. Boom.
Yeah. Want to thank everybody for listening to the show and all the comments and everybody asking questions. It was awesome. Right, Jason?
Yes, it was. Remember, we're going to be at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival in Townsend on May the 3rd. That's next Saturday. We'd like to see people that listen to come up and join us. Pandora had no luck looking in the box.
Nope. And when it was opened, it all got let out.
Then on July 26th, we're going to be at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference in Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Yes.
That's on the 26th of July.
Yep.
Then we're coming October the 11th. We're going to be at the Knox Public Library in Farragut. So come join us for a little presentation we're going to be doing.
Thank you, Barbara.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara. Thank everybody.
Everybody.
And thank you, caller, for calling in.
Yes. It's going to be fun getting to go to the public library again.
Yeah.
Then after the public library, don't we go to the...
I haven't booked that yet, but we probably will. Upper Cumberland Bigfoot Festival,
yes.
I think, is in October.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Last year was fun.
Yeah.
So
remember, come see us.
Yes. Not this Saturday, but next Saturday. We will not be doing a show here, but we will be live
In Townsend. Yeah.
in Townsend at the Bigfoot Festival. Just like last year when we did our live event at the festival. It was fun.
I'm excited.
I am.
We may get to talk with Turtle Man.
What's cool is that they've got us set up in a really nice area where when the speakers are speaking, we're going to be pretty close by.
Live action. Now, there are going to be quite a few guests there.
Yeah.
I know
Maria
Turtle
Mayer.
Man,
Maria Mayer's going to be there.
I think Russell Accord.
Yeah.
A few other people.
Yep. Mountain Monsters. Yeah. Mountain Monsters coming.
Come join us if you can.
Yes. We'd love to see you. So I'm sure everybody else that would be there would love to see you too.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, remember, you can find us at paranormal411.org, Paranormal 411 on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble. Tune in live every Thursday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturdays from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, also on Saturdays from 10 to 11. If you're in the metro Atlanta area, you catch us on WDJY-FM. That's 99.1 FM. And for listeners outside of Atlanta, you can listen to us at WDJYFM.com, or you go to paranormal411.org and click the link. Remember, we're also on Subspace Radio on all major podcast platforms. We have a book out, East Tennessee Hauntings and Lore Edition 2. It's available on Amazon or at paranormal411.org. Join us.
Join us. Yeah, we'll see you Saturday.
See you Saturday. Have a good night.
Have you ever wondered what lurks in the shadows? What secrets the night hides? What strange phenomena might be happening just beyond your perception? Join us as we journey into the world of the paranormal, exploring everything from ghosts and UFOs to cryptids and unexplained occurrences. From haunted houses to all things paranormal, join us in the search for the truth behind the veil. Welcome to Paranormal 411.